Good morning. My name is Satvik Bhan and I'll take your lectures for polity. And before we start, let's discuss 2-3 things and I'll start the class. Is it fine? Let's start quickly. We'll start writing. Let's start with the first topic of the day. First, you get familiar with the syllabus. Take down the syllabus. So, we'll start with the first pillar of discussion, where we'll start with union executive. I'll start with the first pillar, union executive, that basically contains 5 heads further ahead for the exam, where we'll first discuss about the president, then we'll discuss vice president, then we'll discuss prime minister, then we'll discuss council of ministers, president, vice president, prime minister, council of ministers, and then we'll take up the last topic. We'll discuss about parliamentary form of government. We'll discuss about parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government as compared to presidential form of government. Right, parliamentary form of government versus presidential form. Just at a very basic level, what is the example of a parliamentary form of government as a generic student, general knowledge? Best example is India. We are example of parliamentary form. 4 days back, 5 days back, elections happened in the Parliament of Pakistan. Again, example of a parliamentary form. Then in December last year, 23, elections happened in Bhutan. Again, a parliamentary form. Then before that, in October, November, elections happened in Bangladesh. Again, a parliamentary form. Or countries like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, all of them, or I can say most of the European nations, they've got parliamentary form. So from the lens of this subject, we'll try to understand the difference between these group of nations as one unit as compared to example US, that's a presidential form. Example Russia, presidential form. Example South of India, Sri Lanka, presidential form. And the best example from all of you knowing from the current affairs is Maldives. Again, example of a presidential form of government. So I'll discuss these terms later. We'll open up these 5 heads in the first pillar of union executive. You can also write down the number of lectures that we'll give to this first pillar of executive. Write down, we'll be winding up this discussion. In 9 lectures. First 9 lectures, we'll try to discuss the framework of the first pillar, union executive. And after we are done with the first pillar, then we'll start with a very important area for your exam. And specifically for prelims, this is a very, very important area. We'll start with parliament, where we'll have almost 70 to 80% of the questions in prelims. They will come from this topic. So this is a high profile topic. We'll dissect this topic into 7 heads. Let's write all of them down. We'll first start with the first pillar. In Parliament, we'll open the topic of composition. Then we'll discuss qualification, disqualification, qualification, disqualification of MP, and with this we'll also take a discussion on vacation of seat by MP, the second head in Parliament. Then we'll take a discussion on presiding officers. We'll take a discussion on presiding officers. Then we'll discuss what is going on in the Parliament right now. What's going on in the Parliament right now? Yeah, absolutely right. You know from the newspapers every day reporting about the developments of the Parliament. In this session, it is officially called as budget session. On February 1, you basically saw the interim budget getting introduced. So these group of days, in fact, 2 days back, you saw in the Hindu that we meet for roughly for this 17th Lok Sabha, which we'll also discuss what's the meaning of this phrase 17th Lok Sabha. But anyways, in the 17th Lok Sabha that ended, which will end with the last session, that is this session. So we have met just for 55 days in 1 year. So the nuances of how many days do we meet, that is the Parliament meets in a year, and the details of this term, sessions of the Parliament, will open up in the fourth pillar. So we'll discuss the constitutional perspective on sessions of the Parliament, and then we'll take a discussion on, then along with sessions of Parliament, we'll take a discussion on joint sitting. Right, sessions of Parliament, joint sitting, just get familiar with these terms. I'll discuss them later. Just get familiar. That's the objective. Joint sitting and sessions of Parliament. And then we'll move on to two questions of the two part of this topic, from where the questions, they'll come sure short in the examination. 1000% a question will come from these two topics. It is very important for the exam. It's the best concept in the chapter of the Parliament. We'll open the fifth head in the form of one question coming every year, sure short from this topic. It is called as types of bills. Types of bills, and with the topic of types of bills is connected, with the type of bills is connected the next topic, that is the budget. In fact, I just told you that this time on February 1, the interim budget got introduced in the Parliament. So both of these topics we'll try to discuss. We'll see what exactly is the meaning of this term, along with the debate on the different types of bills that we have. This is the sixth head, and then we'll wind up discussion on the Parliament. We'll take the seventh head. The seventh head we'll take will be three topics together. We'll take a discussion on parliamentary committees. We'll take a discussion on parliamentary committees. Then we'll take a discussion on devices of parliamentary proceedings. Devices of parliamentary proceedings. Devices of parliamentary proceedings, visible in the end, the last 2-3 rows, right? Devices of parliamentary proceedings, and then we'll take the last topic. This is called as parliamentary. This is called as parliamentary privileges. This is called as parliamentary privileges. So 7 heads we'll have in the entire discussion on the parliament. Regarding the number of lectures, 9 we had given for the first pillar, executive at center. In this case, we'll be giving 6 lectures to wind up the discussion on the parliament. 9 lectures I gave for executive, 6 lectures we give to the parliament. In 15 lectures, I'll give you a statement that you just take it as a fact, and then I'll open the meaning of the statement. In the first 15 classes, we try to understand the framework of the mechanism of governance that happens at center, assuming that you already know in the previous class on polity by a different teacher that we have the concept of separation of powers as the main philosophy of my constitution. You know that we have created, like every modern state wishes to ensure that there is no concentration of power in any one agency of the state, and because without laws, no organization, no civilization can perform the functions. So on the basis of laws, I created executive, legislature and judiciary. Again, to repeat, known to you from the previous class on polity by a different teacher. And then you also knew very well that we create 2 tiers of administration. We divide powers after we have separated powers between executive, legislature and judiciary. After that, we divide the powers into 2 tiers. One is the center. In Hindi, we call it Kendra. Center in English, in Hindi, we call it Kendra. In Constitution, we call it Union. And then comes the next tier, that is states. In Hindi, we call it Rajya. You will just absorb the fact, I'll just show you the framework of the articles in a bit. But the Constitution, it's a logical book. So if you know the center, you try to understand the framework of center, for which we'll give 15 lectures. Then automatically, if you know the center, you automatically understand the framework of the governance at the second tier, that is the states. In a very crude way, if you know the president, I hope all of you would have heard about the president as a citizen. You have all heard about the prime minister. You all know about the council of ministers, and you all know about parliament from the previous class on polity. What I mean to say is, by that same logic, if you know the president, you know the governor. If you know the PM, you know the CM. If you know the ministers at center, you know the ministers at the state. If you know the parliament, then you know the state legislature. After we are done with the first foundational tier of center, then we'll wind up in that same lens. In that same lens, we'll wind up a discussion on the states. How many states do we have in the country? Yeah, there are 28 states in the country, and in states we'll take it as one discussion because we've seen the center entirely in 15 lectures. I'll take a discussion on state executive, and then so you'd see about governor in this topic. This is a high profile topic. And then you will discuss with me. The second is state legislature. Both of these heads we'll be winding up in almost 1.5 lectures. We'd wind up both of these heads. The tier of states, as I might call, center, then states, and then what's the next topic? In the same spirit. You know the center, you know the states, and no. What is left? Yes. Then we also know the union territories. We also know the union territories. How many UTs are there? 7, 8 or 9? So there were 7, then it became 9, and then it became 8. I'll discuss this framework of 8 UTs but you got to by heart it not like 8. You'll by heart it in the form of 3 plus 5. 3 union territories right now. I'll just give the name. You just take it as a fact. Delhi, where all of you are in right now. Every day you'd find some article talking about the administration in Delhi. Second is J&K. Third is Puducherry. These 3 union territories out of the 8, just get familiar, D, P and J&K have got a legislative assembly, which I'll just explain you in the class today. Just take it as a fact. Take it as a fact means just absorb it and don't think into the wise. Delhi, Puducherry and J&K have got legislative assembly. Remaining 5, that is Ladakh, that is Chandigarh, that is Daman and Diu, and Dadar and Nagar Haveli, that is Andaman, and that is Lakshadweep. These 5 do not have legislative assemblies for a good reason. Thereby 3 plus 5 is the way to understand this topic of UTs. We'll be winding up this discussion in half a lecture. Is it fine? Is it fine? So we'll be giving the entire 5 heads, 5 pillars of the syllabus that you will take with me. 16 lectures. All of you don't know any of these terms. You've heard them for the first time in the class today, except the fact you know about separation of powers and division of powers between center and state. The objective is just to tell you that whatever topic I'll take up in the class, you don't need to ask me where to prepare from, which book to refer. The respective teacher has given you the book list. You follow that for the subject and its topics. For whatever I'll teach in the class, the only source will be the class notes. Whatever I write on the board, whenever I write anything on the board, my objective is that you are writing it down. So I'll maintain a slow pace for the first 2-3 lectures. We'll keep it discussion oriented. So when I write anything, that's a part of class notes. Third lecture onwards, I'll discuss some topic for mains, for which I'll give you a formal write-up, keeping in mind how the questions have come in the civil services exam. And even when I speak, I'm speaking, first you familiarize yourself in the first 2-3 lectures to try to analyze my speed. That goes for every teacher. After 3-4 lectures, whenever I speak also, I'd expect that you are writing, penning down everything in the class notes, because we'll discuss several things together. So only source is class notes. I'll give you some handouts later on and I'll discuss those handouts later. Third thing, which is a common query for all of you, that you'd be having doubts in the subject, and specifically the ones who've read before, they'd want to test and analyze the performance of the teacher and rate them, give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. So it's a request to those people who've read it before, who've got a good knowledge, that you need to unlearn whatever you've learned. In the first 5-6 classes, I'll set the primary plank of my topic, my subject. I teach at a very basic level. What you need to require as a citizen, we'll start from that, then we'll build up slowly and slowly. So it's my recommendation that you stick to whatever I'm telling you in the class. Don't have doubts. If you've got doubts, that's natural. Most of them, they are irrelevant. You are just being curious. Even if they are relevant, I'd myself address them in the classes subsequently. So it's my request that whatever doubts you have, you write it at the side of your notes. You wait for 6-7 lectures. Let me just collate and build a foundation. Then you understand everything. You will understand all the points on your own. And the ones who've read before, they need to unlearn. And you need to be a bit patient. That's the only thing that you require from my side. If you still get doubts in the end, I'll take it in the last 5 minutes of the class. The online one, especially when I'm teaching, please don't write the doubts here. I'll not run away. Don't have the insecurity that the teacher will not answer the doubts. It's my recommendation to you that you wait for 6-7 lectures. We'll take time. You first need to absorb the subject. Let things go easily and easily. Let's absorb the information first. And then after 6-7 lectures, you'd be at a right pace to ask me relevant doubts for the exam. Rest, you'll waste the time of the class. Is it fine, all of you? So that is all. It's, I think, just your first or second week, so I'll not bombard you with facts. What else do you want to know from me? How many lectures I told you? You can just simply count. It's almost 16-17 lectures. What do you want to know from me? Then I'd start the class. Any doubts that you have, then I'll start the class. Should I start, all of you? Okay, now before I open the first topic, you just make this diagram with me. Just give this heading and then I'll start with the first topic. Just give this heading. You write like this, give this heading and try to see if you understand. Assuming that you've revised the last class on polity, you just write down, give this heading, write down framework of separation of powers. Write down framework of separation of powers and division of powers in the Constitution. Framework of separation of powers and division of powers in the Constitution. And again, from the last class on polity, you were told that we have 3 pillars as per separation of power. Right, in the same way as I write on the board, you've got 3 pillars. That is executive, that is legislature and judiciary. All of you are well aware of these 3 pillars in the last class. Quickly, anyone, what's the function of each of these 3? Raise your hands, don't speak in a group. What's the function of each of these 3? Yes. Yes, just hold on. Legislature formulates or makes the laws. Executive, executive implements the laws, and judiciary, interprets, or I can say enforces or interpret the law. That is what you know. One pillar makes laws, other pillar implements them, third pillar, in case of any dispute that comes up in the implementation of that law, tries to give a decision. That is what you know. And then we've got division of powers between 2 tiers. So just write part 5, which is center. Then we have part 6, which is states. Separate powers between executive, legislature, judiciary, with the basis being the laws. Being a huge country, geographically, we create 2 tiers. We divide powers between part 5 and part 6. That is what you know. Now, this is how the Constitution fills in all the details, where we first write the articles for Union Executive. It is 52 to 78. Then we write the articles for the Parliament, 79 to 122. Then we write the articles for the Supreme Court. This is 124 to 147. Then we go, after we have seen the center, we go to the states. We have got state executive, articles 153 to 167. We then go to the state legislature. This is 168 to 212. Then we go to the High Court and the subordinate courts. High Court and the subordinate courts, which is Article 214 to 237. Draw this diagram. In the same way as I write on the board, exact same way. Have you all drawn it? What's the feel? What's the implication from this diagram? What's the first level of thought that you get if you look at this diagram? Division of powers, separation of powers, and then division into two tiers. After that, something that you know from the last class is getting beautifully manifested in this diagram. What is that? Yeah. No. I just want to keep it basic. Even if we don't know, even if we haven't discussed, I'm just saying that we separate powers between three pillars. Executive is implementing, legislature is making, judiciary is enforcing. I've just given the articles. So this diagram tells you what? What's the first observation? There's so many of them. Constitution writes what? Limitations of the government. How? Absolutely right. Absolutely right. 1000% right. Even though separation of powers has not been taken as a topic in detail, we just want to touch on that topic and leave. The Indian Constitution, or for that matter, any constitution of the world, like it came up in the exam last year in prelims, is written with one objective. In fact, from the lens of polity, the moment you write anything that you write in subject of polity that governs the administration of a country, the moment you write, you are writing with the objective of limiting the powers of the different agencies of the state. For example, I'm a member of this batch, I want to sit on the front seat, and somebody has kept a bag on that seat, and I tell that person, pick up the bag. That person says, no, it's for my friend. I said, no, I'll sit, and then we get entangled in a dispute. So from the lens of administration, it was a void which was left unclarified. That is why, to resolve this void, if I put up a notice here that no one can reserve seats for your friends, then I can immediately tell that person, it's written there on the notice board, the debate ends. Will you all agree with this? Exact same way, the constitutions of the world, they are writing the provisions, they are writing the articles with the primary objective of not giving you fundamental rights, not defining democracies, not discussing anything that you know, but with the primary intent of limiting the powers of different agencies of the state. That's the first thought. And thereby, this diagram is a beautiful manifestation of this concept that almost there are 395 articles that we have in the Constitution. Let's say it's 400, almost 180 of them, just two parts. There are 24 parts, by the way, and I'll discuss what it means also in theory. I'll discuss what it means by calling it as a part, but just two parts out of 24, they together wrap up 180 articles of the Constitution, which is again a manifestation of the fact that Indian Constitution wonderfully dedicates 50% and much more, if I discuss other provisions, with the objective of limiting the organs, limiting the powers of different organs of the state. That's the first thought. That's the first thought. So this is a manifestation of that thought. जो आपने सोचा, जो आपको पता है, वो आपने अब इन सारे अनुच्छेदों में देख लिया. ये पहली चीज है. दूसरी चीज, पॉलिटी में जैसे आपकी पहली आइडेंटिटी आपका नाम है. जैसे मैं आपसे पूछूं आप कौन हो, अपना नाम बोलोगे आप. पॉलिटी में सबसे पहली चीज, जो भी चीज अखबार में आप पढ़ें, एनीथिंग दैट यू रीड इन द न्यूज़पेपर, लेट्स से एनी पोस्ट, लेट्स से प्रेसिडेंट, लेट्स से अटॉर्नी जनरल, let's say CM, let's say Supreme Court judges, let's say Chief Election Commissioner, the first thing is you got to know the name. And that name of that office is, number one, what is the part in which that particular individual or that post has been mentioned. And number two, what is the article? Two things. Let's say if I want to know where is Vajiram, you would say it's in Rajendra Nagar. Where? 7B. The same way, Rajendra Nagar in the constitution is the part. Beautifully, we have amalgamated a group of articles in 24 parts. That logic we'll discuss later. First thing is, if I discuss anything, first question is, what is the part? And within that part, what is the set of article? For example, I want to start with the first pillar, union executive. What's the first question? It is given in part 5 and the articles are 52 to 78. That's the first level of query in polity. What is the part and what is the exact address, exact number of articles? Is it coming easy? Right. And then definition, because just as a food for thought, it is asked in the exam just as a food for thought. If it comes, very good. If it doesn't come, skip it. Definitions in the constitution are never given. Definitions in the constitution are never given. That is where the subject of polity arises. Polity comes up only when there is a law. Polity is simplifying the law, which is the constitution in our case, for the masses. So you never find the definition in the constitution. But in polity, if I had to define, how will you define each of these 6? What's the definition of union executive from the lens of the subject of polity? No. Be more specific. What are you writing in these articles? What will you write here? I want to know that. In this part, what are we writing? What are we writing? What are we writing? Yeah, now see, listen to me. If somebody is asking me, what is union executive, what is parliament, what is Supreme Court, what is state executive, state legislature, or high court or subordinate courts, first point is the constitution does not define these terms. It just writes and gives you the article. But for me, a student of polity, I'd say, if somebody is asking me, what is union executive, I'll simply tell it's given in the constitution in part 5, articles 52 to 78. Number 2, the powers of the authorities involved in implementation of laws at center have been given. What is parliament? It's the authority that formulates or makes laws at the tier of center discussed in the constitution under article 79 to 122 given in part 5. What is Supreme Court? It is the premier adjudicatory body at the tier of center discussed in the constitution under part 5, articles 128 to 147. What is state executive? Discussed in part 6, 153 to 167. Don't write, just get the feel. 153 to 167, it enumerates the powers and to some extent limitations. We can write that. It enumerates the powers or limitations of the agencies involved in implementation of laws at the tier of states. So 3 things I told you. First, this diagram is a manifestation of the basic objective of the constitution, that's to limit the powers of different agencies of the state. Second, the Indian constitution separates and divides powers. First query is, what is the part, what is the article? Third, definitions are not given, but from these terms itself, union, executive, legislature, we can just make out what is the definition of each of these 3 or 6 heads. Is it fine? Now let's start with the first pillar. Now let's open all the articles one by one. Let's start with the first pillar. Give the heading Union Executive. Write down discussed in the Constitution. under discussed in the Constitution under Part 5, again to repeat, articles discussed in the Constitution under Part 5, Articles 52 to 78. Just write a line. It's your first class, though it's not required. Write down these articles enumerate the powers, enumerates the powers and details of different agencies or authorities or offices, all mean the same, or posts involved in implementation, underline implementation, implementation of the laws at the tier of center. Implementation of the laws at the tier of the center. That's the first thing. Second point, write down the following are the offices or the posts discussed in the above mentioned articles. And thereby constitute number one, who? Number one, write down president. Number two, vice president. Number three, prime minister. Number four, council of ministers. These four will take our first 8 lectures, and there is one more which we'll just wrap up in this class only. Write down Attorney General. Attorney General. Have you heard this term before? Have you heard one more term before, Solicitor General? What's the objective of having this post, Attorney General? Objective, not what it does. What is the objective of writing Attorney General in these group of articles that talk about the powers of implementation agencies at the tier of center? First, tell me who's the Attorney General. What's the name of the individual? His name is R. Venkatramani. And if somebody has read the subject before, and all of you also would have generally seen that in the month of November 2023, you saw him giving arguments in the Supreme Court defending the government of India defending the Bharat Sarkar vis-a-vis the debate that was going on in the Supreme Court regarding the defense that he was giving for abrogation of Article 370 that was carried by the government of the day on August 5th or 6th, 2019. And that is where the origin of this position starts. Now, all of you know that there is judiciary, which is the body that decides on the disputes from the last class. Details are not known, just the basic knowledge is known. You want to add to that information that if 100 cases reach the courts in the country, if 100 cases they reach the court in the country, more than 50% of them, they will involve the government as a party. They will involve government as a party. That means that the government at center or the government at your state, which means Prime Minister at center and CM in your state, they are involved in that dispute. Their actions, their government or their steps have led to questioning in the court, thereby they are responsible. They themselves do not go to the court of law and present the argument, but in a very crude way, they've got a permanent lawyer, just like you and me hire a lawyer when we go to the court of law for any cases defense. The same way, a permanent lawyer, because of the fact that bulk of the cases which are pending before the courts, they entail the government as a party, thereby that permanent lawyer is known as Attorney General. That don't write, first listen. That permanent lawyer is known as Attorney General for the Prime Minister, which we'll just write. There is the same fellow with the logic. If you know the center, then you automatically know the states. For the state chief minister, your CM, my CM, that same lawyer is called as Advocate General. So these two have got one simple function. If there's any action, any policy where the government of India or government of state has to be defended in any court of law within territory of India, that is done by this individual. Which means, to further substantiate, can I say that Attorney General is the alter ego of the Prime Minister? मतलब क्या मैं ये बोल सकता हूं कि महाधिवक्ता अटॉर्नी जनरल प्रधानमंत्री की परिछाई है? क्या मैं बोल सकता हूं हाँ या ना? If the PM gets appointed in April, May, elections will happen, a new PM will emerge. The first appointment that shall be made by any Prime Minister is to choose this permanent friend, this permanent lawyer who will defend the actions of his, her government in the court of law throughout the territory of India, and thereby vice versa. When the Prime Minister changes, in any country of the world, the first person to put in the papers, अगर भारत में मुख्यमंत्री या प्रधानमंत्री बदला जाएगा, सबसे पहला व्यक्ति जो इस्तीफा देगा, सबसे पहला व्यक्ति क्रूड नॉलेज के लिए जो इस्तीफा देगा प्रधानमंत्री के साथ, क्योंकि वो प्रधानमंत्री बदलने वाला है, नया वकील आएगा. That first person to put in the papers when the PM or the CM resigns is Attorney General and Advocate General. That is what came up in the exam last year, but forget that. Let's not go there. Is it coming easy? That's a flavor. Now let's write the constitutional perspective here. You write down, just give the first subheading, write down Attorney General. Write down Attorney General. Now there's a very good concept you'd find here. Pay attention. Write down Attorney General. Now you see how we'll write these details. They are very important for you to understand how the subject matter develops. Write down number 1, discussed in the Constitution. Discussed in the Constitution under Article under Article 76. Number 1, 76. Number 2, what's the function? Simple keyword. Is the chief legal officer. I'll simplify. Is the chief legal officer of the government of India. Is the chief legal officer of the government of India. Next point, appointed by the president. Appointed by the president. And a very important concept for all of you, appointed by the president and holds the office. Very important. And holds the office. Holds the office. Underline this phrase, very important. Holds the office for the pleasure of the president. Holds the office for the pleasure of the president. For the pleasure of the president. Next point, the Attorney General needs to be qualified. The Attorney General needs to be qualified. Needs to be qualified. Underline this phrase. Underline this phrase. I'll discuss, have a thought, I'll discuss later. Third lecture I'll open up, just have a thought. Has to be qualified, underline, as a Supreme Court judge. Underline, as a Supreme Court judge. Think what it means, simple English, as a Supreme Court judge. Next point, the remuneration. What is remuneration? What does remuneration imply? Basically the salary. The remuneration is determined by the president. The remuneration is determined by the president. Determined by the president. Next point. Is assisted by. Is assisted by. Underline. Solicitor. Is assisted by Solicitor General. Basically, you know this post from the current affairs because the Solicitor General also defended the government of India, Bharat Sarkar or the PM regarding abrogation of 370, and in many more cases, he is the one who's junior to Attorney General, and for the exam, he recently got reappointed for a term of 3 years. His name is absolutely right. His name is Tushar Mehta. Right, so assisted by Solicitor General. The last point came up in the exam in 2022. You write and forget. I'll open this term later. In bracket, write down CSP. What is CSP? CSP is what? Some code word? Write down CSP 2022. What is it? Obviously, simple. Civil Services Prelims 2022. Write down. This came up in the statement. CSP 22. See what you write. I'll open this point later in the next class. Write down as a convention. Very important term. We'll discuss later. As a convention. Underline this phrase. As a convention. As a convention the Attorney General resigns. The Attorney General resigns. The Attorney General resigns when what happens? When the Prime Minister resigns. When the Prime Minister resigns, and one more thing which we'll feel later, just by heart it as a fact, or the government led by Prime Minister, or the government led by the Prime Minister, government led by the Prime Minister loses the confidence. Government led by the Prime Minister loses the confidence. Underline this phrase, very important. Discussed later. Confidence of the Lok Sabha. Loses the confidence of the Lok Sabha. It has a very simple meaning, but I don't want to touch upon this meaning right now. You just know and you revise. I just want to open one good concept here and you just pay attention, because I'd like to know your thoughts on this term, because I'd like to stretch it forward and tell you something, that how these things they come up in the exam. Have you heard this term before? In what context? I told you a few minutes back, that is how you know? No, not that ways. Okay, now listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. Let me give you a framework and then you delve and think about what I want to listen to. Then I'll pull it further ahead for the exam. Now see, all of you are preparing for civil services exam. That's just a job, just like any other job. And in the constitution, we are discussing what? I said Prime Minister, I said President, I said, Supreme Court judges, I said High Court judges, I said attorney, I said solicitor, and many more. They all are jobs. Job is a crude way to speak in English. Job, in the lens of polity, in the lens of the constitution, as you wrote, is called as office. For example, I'm doing a job at the institute. In a fancy way in polity, I'd say that I'm holding an office with Vajiram and Ravi. That is what is the meaning of this term, office. Second thing is, when you join any job, what's the first thing that you want to know? No. Obviously salary. Go beyond salary. No. First thing that any person like me would want to know when he joins any job is, what is the term? Absorb it. What is the term? In Hindi we say कार्यकाल. कितनी देर तक आप उस नौकरी में रहोगे? जैसे राष्ट्रपति, प्रेसिडेंट 5 years, बेसिक जीके, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट 5 years, प्राइम मिनिस्टर no, you're wrong. That's okay. Listen to me. Every job which a person is doing would have a term. Term means some fixed number of years. From the lens of polity, whenever you say somebody has got a term, president has got a term of 5 years, VP has got a term of 5 years, it is right opposite. Giving someone a term is nothing but giving him something called as security of tenure. Security of tenure, which from the lens of polity means that the President of India has got a term of 5 years, but he cannot be removed unless something happens, unless he does something, unless he violates some grounds. Only then he shall be removed before 5 years. Is it fine? The same way, if any position any job, any post, any authority has this mention in the Constitution that Attorney General is holding his post for the pleasure of the President, it is stupid to ask him, please tell me your term. It is stupid to ask him because term from the lens of polity is the fact that the person cannot be removed unless he violates certain grounds of removal. किसी का कार्यकाल होगा उसका मतलब यह है कि उससे पहले उसको नहीं हटा सकते, और अगर कोई भी व्यक्ति अपनी नौकरी किसी की खुशी के लिए करेगा, if any person is doing the job for the pleasure of someone, it automatically means you will not find for the exam, for the prelims, for the Constitution, any grounds of removal. And from the perspective of polity, wherever now you find in the Constitution in your classes for any position grounds of removal mentioned in the Constitution, then the first thing that should strike you is that job, that post, that authority has been given security of tenure and independence thereby by the Constitution. So the moment I say President has a term of 5 years, the moment I say term, I need to look for grounds. That's the next question. The moment I say Attorney General is holding the post for the pleasure of someone, that's a full stop, which means I can safely assume he has got no security of tenure and thereby he will not have any ground of removal enshrined or mentioned in the Constitution. Which means, coming clear or not, yes or no? Yes. Which means in the exam, they'll ask you a question like this in prelims, just a thought. We'll discuss many more later. Just a thought. Which offices amongst the following have got grounds of removal mentioned in the Constitution? Or they might ask you, which offices amongst the following have got security of tenure by the Constitution? It is asking you indirectly which of the following offices are holding their jobs for the pleasure of someone. Those offices, those positions, those jobs automatically will not have grounds of removal enshrined in the Constitution. Those positions, those jobs, authorities automatically will not get security of tenure. So the lens is pleasure of president or pleasure of any authority for that matter and grounds of removal, they are mutually exclusive. किसी नौकरी के अगर ग्राउंड ऑफ रिमूवल है तो वो व्यक्ति किसी के प्रेशर के लिए काम नहीं कर रहा, और कोई किसी के प्रेशर के लिए काम कर रहा है तो स्वतः अपने आप उसके ग्राउंड ऑफ रिमूवल कहीं भी नहीं लिखे होंगे. ये लेंस आपको अडॉप्ट करना है. आया समझ में? इसको लिखिए ब्रैकेट में. लेट्स ओपन दिस स्ट्रैंड अ बिट, राइट डाउन. Therefore, it can be concluded. Quickly write down. Therefore, it can be concluded. It can be concluded that Attorney General does not have security of tenure. Does not have security of tenure. Does not have security of tenure, and thereby has no, and thereby has, underline this phrase, thereby has no, underline, no what? No grounds of removal. No grounds of removal. No grounds of removal mentioned in the Constitution. No grounds of removal mentioned in the Constitution One more thing. The following hold the office. Next point. The following hold the office. The following hold the office. The following hold the office for the pleasure of the president. Following hold the office for the pleasure of the president. Number one is who? Make a guess by basic general knowledge. Attorney, I told you. Write down, very, very important post. Governor, article is 156. Very important article, has to be by hearted. For the pleasure of the president. First is Governor, article 156 has to be by hearted, very important. Second, the Prime Minister has a term of 5 years, true or false? Simple question, basic general knowledge. PM has a term of 5 years. He says I've got a term of 5 years. True or false? Absolutely false. I'll discuss this thought later. Just absorb it as a fact. Write down Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers. Very important article, 75. Yeah, Prime Minister and ministers, they, like the governor, like the Attorney General, work for the pleasure of the president. This strand I'll open later, right? And third is, what about you? When you clear the exam, it's a government job. Will you be getting a term? That's the first thing you'd want to know about your job. Yes or no? No. Write down. The third is members of what? Members of All India Services. That is you, and Central Services. That is again some of you. For the exam, these three they hold the office by the Constitution for the pleasure of the president. Members of AIS, All India Services, and Central Services. You understand? What is AIS? Just generic knowledge. The exam that you prepare for. You know about your job. What is AIS? All India Service. That's a full form. Substantiate. Somebody raise your hands quickly. Yes. Yeah. And what about Central Services? Yeah, the name itself is giving the hint. When you get an All India Service, that is A and P, administrative and police, then you are chosen by the central government through UPSC, and you get a state cadre. You work in a state for the rest of your life. You are given, allotted by the center to a state, along with one more that is called as Indian Forest Services. For you as a student, for the exam, there is a clamor for one more All India Service, for which you can just read and see the pros and cons. Just to tell you, because I'm using this phrase, there is one more service which is called as AIJS, All India Judicial Services. Just know the term. Important, but just know the term. We want to have that as a fourth All India Service. Right now you've got three, and every other service that you have in the UPSC exam, like Revenue Services, Foreign Audit Account, Postal Services, every service is where you are selected by the center. You work in the central government offices only. Is it fine? Let's now give the next heading. Give this heading, write down important articles. Let's open these articles now in detail. Give this heading, write down important articles. First, write down is Article 52, the very first article. This is the first article I think you will see in the class. You've just seen the framework, you've not seen the Constitution. Am I? Have you seen the articles before? No, just the framework. Fine. Now, what will you find in 52 as a citizen? What to expect? And if you know 52, just to now add this thought, you also know, if you know 52, from that framework of separation of powers diagram, then you automatically know what? Absolutely right. If you know, now see again, if you know the center, you know the states. There's a good mathematical logic to know the article for states. I'll discuss that later. If you know 52, then you know 153. 52 is very simple. You can just write it down. It beautifully just tells you something. Doesn't mention anything else. It simply says there shall be Prime Minister of India. It simply writes a simple statement. There shall be President of India. Simple. First article, just introducing, there shall be President of India. You write down the next article, very important, very, very, very important. Article 53, very important article, tells you quite a lot, tells you everything actually. There shall be President of India is 52. 53, write down. See what you write. Write down. Write down executive powers of, underline, the Union. Executive powers of the Union. Executive powers of the Union shall be vested underline, with the President. Executive powers of the Union shall be vested with the President, who shall exercise the powers directly, or with the help of officers underline, subordinate to the President. So if you know, by the way, 53, then you know. If you know 53, then you know 154. Now just read this article again. Read this article. This is the first time you see a good article. And just anyone can just raise your hands and interpret this article. Then I'll tell you something here. Just read these 3 lines. Take your 15-20 seconds. Executive powers of the Union shall be vested with the President, who shall exercise the powers directly or with the help of officials subordinate to him. Yes. Yes. Yeah, not only them. Now see, first try to understand one thing. That's okay. I'll give you a chance later. First thing is one strand for the exam. In the exam, the most important thing, apart from the fact that what is the part and what is the article, that's the first level of query as a student of this subject. The second thing you want to know is, because a polity as a subject is discussing about the administration of the affairs of any country, and everything cannot be written in the constitution. Already we are the largest. we're the largest constitution. We wrote everything, but it's simple application of mind that you cannot write everything in the constitution. And that is what is the next level of query for the exam, that what things in polity are written in the constitution is one thought. And second, what is not in the constitution, it is popularly called as non-constitutional. Just one example, like Niti Aayog. Is it there in the constitution? No. I call it non-constitutional entity, non-constitutional power. That's the first thing, that you know the article and the part. In case if that body is in the constitution, if it's non-constitutional, then it might be mentioned in a couple of sources. We'll discuss those sources later. That's the second thought. Third thought, this is a technical article. The lawyers, they wrote the constitution. So thereby we got to interpret this article. We got to simplify. In the lens of polity, we call it explanation. So we have to simplify this article for a citizen, for all of you. That simplification is the theory. That does not mean it's a part of the constitution. Try to appreciate that. What is written, जो लिखा गया है संविधान में, वो संविधान का part है. That's there. But these provisions have been interpreted over the years to give a flavor from these articles. So when the constitution says like this, executive powers of the union shall be vested with the president, that's the clause. So in the question, executive powers as per the constitution are vested with who? The president. That's the answer. But the meaning of this statement is the fact that union executive as an entity, which has been discussed in 52 to 78, which includes 5 authorities, all 5 of them are part of it, but the headship or the number one person, the first person to speak of in those 5 will be the president. President is the head. President is the head thereby of union executive, and because he is the head, in the next part of this constitution we have wonderfully simplified the task for him. Constitution gives him liberty. Constitution is basically telling the president that you are free to decide, because you've got so many functions as the head of execution at center, so many laws, so many policies, so many programs are passed by the government at center. Everything is under the headship of the president. That is why we tell him you are free to decide which will be the functions that shall be performed by the president directly. Directly means the president himself, the president herself will execute, will implement that power by signing, by being a party of that decision. That is direct. She has to be herself involved. She has to be a party. But that is for the most important functions, which you don't know. In the classes, we study some of the very important functions of the president. You know one of them. That is abrogation of 370. That abrogation of 370 was a step that is a constitutional provision that was taken by the president with his liberty by the constitution directly. She decided, I'll do it directly. He basically, in 19, Mr. Ramnath Kovind. So he decides, she decides what is to be directly. She has to be a party, he has to be a party, as compared to some of the routine functions that the government of India carries out. In those functions, you cannot involve the president always. Beautifully, we give her the flexibility, and thereby the constitution says, you take the help of officials subordinate to you. Officials has to be read broadly. Broadly. Any individual, any civil servant, any bureaucrat who is performing the task on behalf, at the behest of the president, because he or she cannot be everywhere, that is an official who is subordinate to the president. For example, when you qualify the exam, who appoints you? President. Will she send you appointment letters by her own name? Will she sign the appointment letters? You got to be appointed like any other job. You get appointment letter, then you go to the training. So who gives you that letter? President. No. It's a big thing for you. It's a routine task for her. Every year, almost 800 people, 900, 1000, they qualify the exam, they get appointed to the service. It's a routine task for the government of India, led by the president. She's the head who has got the flexibility. She can outsource, delegate. Thereby, your appointment in theory by the constitution is done rightly by the president. In practice, because she has been allowed to outsource that function by 53, that's the hallmark of all the articles. She can outsource that function to a lower authority. So one of the assistant secretaries, one of the civil servants, one of the bureaucrats in your department, which I'll discuss later, 8th lecture, it's called as Department of Personnel and Training. That assistant secretary shall appoint you to the government of India in the name of the president. In the name of the president. Is it fine? Yes. Which means what? To further imply, which means you answer a question, who's the head of my country? No. First answer my question, who's the head of the country? It's not the president. I have given the article, I explained the article, who's the head of the country? It's not the president. Then give me more options. Prime Minister? No. Who's the head of the country? Basic question. Who's the head of US? President. Who's the head of India? Not the president, not the PM. Then who? Constitution cannot be head. How can a book be a head of a country? Who's the head? Now you write down. Write down. First you explain this provision. Write down explanation. Give this heading. Write down explanation. Explanation of 53. We are now demystifying, simplifying the article. Explanation. Write down. Thereby it can be inferred. Thereby it can be inferred. Thereby it can be inferred. Thereby it can be inferred that the president underline, is the head. Thereby it can be inferred that the president is the head of what? I asked who's the head, full stop. But you will write first what? Head of what? Head of what? Constitution? No, underline. No. Head of the Union Executive. इससे 53 से ये डिडक्शन है, वो हेड तो है पर किसका? अंडरलाइन. यूनियन एग्जीक्यूटिव. However, Article 53 has to be read. Article 53 has to be read. With very, very, very important article. With Article 74. Has to be read with Article 74. Underline 74. Very important article. Has to be read with Article 74. Next line. As per Article 74. Quickly. As per Article 74. As per Article 74. As per Article 74. See what you write. There shall be Council of Ministers. There shall be Council of Ministers, popularly called as COM, Council of Ministers, headed by the Prime Minister. headed by the Prime Minister, to aid and advise. To aid and advise the President. Aid and advise the President, comma, underline, who shall act. Aid and advise, then comma, who shall act on such advice. Shall को underline करिए. Shall मतलब binding. Shall. Who shall. Shall means binding. Who shall, underline shall, act on such advice. Who shall act on such advice? In bracket, you write down very important provision. First, write down in bracket. You know constitutional amendments. Have you seen the flavor in the last classes? Okay, you write down, then I'll explain you first. First, you write down. Let's complete the write-up. Write down 42nd CAA. Write the initials, abbreviations. CAA. 1976. 42nd CAA 1976 had made or has made such advice, underline, binding on the President. Underline, binding on the President. Binding on the President. However, as per 44th CAA 1978, very important amendment, both of them. As per 44th CAA 1978, the President can refer such advice underline this phrase, for reconsideration. President can refer such advice for reconsideration back to who? Back to the Council of Ministers. थोड़ी लिखने की स्पीड तेज रखिए आप, काफी धीरे धीरे लिखते हैं सब, कोई बात नहीं, धीरे धीरे इंप्रूव हो जाएगी. Back to the Council of Ministers. But if the advice is returned, back to the President, advice is returned back to the President, then such advice shall be binding. Such advice shall be binding. Such advice shall be binding on the President. Now see, the first thought before I open up the concept and then we again throw up this question, who's the head? Just like any other book that you know, Constitution is just a book. It's a book containing articles. The Constitution got into operation. It started commencement on which date? Basic general knowledge. Yeah, we implemented the Constitution from the date of Jan 26, 1950. But just like any other society, society evolves, it progresses, right? Beautifully, that same way, the constitution also is referred as a living document. It's referred as a living document. It is something that can be amended. Keeping in mind the changes of the society and the progression that we move forward, it's a progressive act. It's a progressive method by which the constitution itself says you can amend it. Procedure is stringent. That's again beautiful. How to make a change, that's not easy. And there can be different types of changes that we can get. That's another lens for the exam. But for the first class, absorb it. Constitution is a living document. It is basically changing with the surroundings. Of late, recently, the last amendment that we had made to the Constitution was 106. By the way, we have changed that book since 26th of Jan 1950 106 times. 106 बार उस किताब में हमने संशोधन किया. एक भी अक्षर आपने बदला उसे संशोधन बोलेंगे. क्लास नोट्स में कोई भी बदलाव किया वो संशोधन है, amendment. That is what I mean. The last one, we allowed reservation for women. So in the exam, I'll discuss later, they ask you what amendment did what changed to the constitution. That's the first thing. In the past 3 years, there's one more lens which you need to build upon from the next class. I'll assume that you know that. You need to know the list of all the prime ministers, download from the Government of India's website, take a printout and paste it in your class notes. जितने भी भारत में प्रधानमंत्री रहे उन सबका नाम और कार्यकाल आपके टिप्स पे होना चाहिए, क्योंकि पिछले 3-4 साल से अब यूपीएससी प्रीलिम्स में ये पूछती है कि कौन सी अमेंडमेंट कौन से प्रधानमंत्री के कार्यकाल के दौरान आई. The amendments that you know, like 10623 came under the incumbent PM. So first, amendments need to be by-hearted, which are in class notes. Then some bit of them more, I'll discuss them later. Know the list of PM. Thereby, as a student of the subject and as a citizen, the amendment to the constitution is what for you? You've got the amendment and you've got the PM. What's the correlation? What can you deduce from the amendment and the PM? You can deduce the personality of the Prime Minister. If you know the amendment along with the list of Prime Ministers, you will understand a beautiful flavor of what type of personality the Prime Minister carried. And that type of personality I'll pick up in my debates in the classes further ahead. That is what you want to do. Is that clear? Now let's come to this topic. Now this is very interesting. Now see what it says. See, now listen. Let's first try to understand. When I ask you, who's the head? There'd be only one. Head is always one. Do we all agree on that? Yes. But no, that's not the case. The Indian Constitution has inserted a provision that we saw for many years in England. First, you try to see what happened there. In England, there were a kingdom. There was a king. That king appropriated all the powers. He had all the powers. Democracy emerged. People chose the prime minister, and they very smartly had this framework developed. They could not have snatched powers from the king. So they told the king that there's no need to worry. You stay, hang into the power. You're the head. Everything is with you. But everything that you do now, after I come in, that's on the advice of me. That is what we adopted in my country. Wherever thereby I mention the term president, no doubts, he's the head, she's the head. Wherever in the constitution, in the newspaper, in the media, on the radio, on the TV, on YouTube, if you find the term president, she is not taking that action, including your appointment, abrogation of 370, any step that you know, all of it is limited by the fact that the constitution has told whatever is taken, carried as an action by the president, that is 1000% on the advice of a group of members that is called as Council of Ministers. Forget that. There's a team of people. Forget that. You absorb PM. PM tells the president what to do. PM himself cannot do anything. unless he nudges the president into action. President has got all the powers in theory, but he cannot do anything unless he gets the advice. That is a beautiful arrangement that the Britishers gave us. I'll tell you why it's beautiful, not right now, later on. This is the framework of any country of the world which has got a parliamentary form of government. Listen to me now. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me now. Hang on. I'll give you some of the countries. Have a thought. And I'll give the other side, have a thought. Think about India. Think about Japan. Think about Singapore. Think about Australia. Think about New Zealand. Think about Canada. Think about Italy. Think about Portugal, Spain, Italy. Let's say Netherlands. Let's say Belgium. Let's say Poland. Let's say Sweden. Let's say Finland. All of these nations, they together are this. Head is someone else. Advice is Prime Minister. At the other side, Maldives, Turkey, Russia, China, then Venezuela, Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile, Mexico, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all the African nations, they are the other side. They are the presidential type. If you understood, if you haven't, forget. That is the flavor of any parliamentary form, where if I ask you who's the head, there cannot be one answer. Every parliamentary form of government, strangely from the Britishers, has got two heads. दो हेड है, दो अध्यक्ष हैं भारत में. एक जिसके पास शक्तियां लिखित में है, पर वो बेचारा या वो बेचारी कुछ भी नहीं कर सकती बिना प्रधानमंत्री की सलाह के. शक्तियां असलियत में प्रधानमंत्री के पास हैं, पर वो कुछ नहीं कर सकते अगर वो राष्ट्रपति को नज ना करें. इवेंचुअली जो प्रधानमंत्री चाहेंगे वो होएगा, परंतु बट 1978 the PM was, anyone knows? Yes, Morarji Desai had given more flavor to this job. President anyways had to follow the advice. He said one thing, that if the president gets the advice, she has got one alternative. She can just push that file back. He can just push the file back to the Prime Minister. She can just send that file. She can tell the PM, just have a rethink. That's a big thing. Crudely in your first class, you might think, what's the benefit? वापिस आएगा तो हाँ बोलना ही है. No, it's a big thing. It's a big amendment. I'll discuss this point later, not right now. This reconsideration of the advice is just your first class, has saved several state governments from dismissal. I'll discuss the example later. So if the president gets the advice he or she has to follow, she can just push that file back once to the PM. If the PM, he has to rethink, she has to rethink. If he sends the file back to the president, it is 1000% now to follow that advice. Thereby, if somebody is asking me who's the head, I'd say I live in a parliamentary form. I know it from the Article 74. It is implicitly deduced from 74. It doesn't right now. Did you understand my point? 74 doesn't say we are a parliamentary form. It is giving you a provision which is so common in polity across the world. From this provision, I can implicitly deduce, I can derive, I can deduce, I can justify, I can conclude that India is an example of a parliamentary form of government. Is it fine? You just write this point down, write down quickly. 74 is like a high profile article. This is the gist of your type of government. Yes, I'll just take the doubts in a bit. Is it clear in the end, all of you? Right, just write down. Therefore, it can be deduced from the provisions of 74. It can be deduced from the provisions of Article 74. In bracket, write something which I'll discuss later, hyper heavy article, along with 75. Very important. In bracket, write down along with 75. Close the bracket. Along with 75. Along with 75. Close the bracket. That India has underline this term, Parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government. At where? कहाँ? केंद्र या राज्य? Center. Parliamentary form of government at center. Center or union both mean the same. You write center, whatever suits you. At center or union. And thereby write down. And thereby write down. India has. Thereby write down. India has dual heads. India has dual heads. Dual means do. Dual heads or dual executives. Dual heads or dual executives. Write the same way as I write on the board. Dual heads or dual executives where the president is. Where the president is what? Where the president is what? Nominal or titular or adjectives पर्यायवाची बताइए और very good ceremonial और बताइए ceremonial के बाद क्या या we can constitutional और theoretical और a term in Latin or de jure. De jure means in theory. De jure means in theory, on paper, in the letter, in the law. Right? De jure head as compared to who? As compared to the Prime Minister. PM is what kind of head? Real head. Real head or practical head. Or opposite of de jure is absolutely right. Or de facto head. Any country of the world having a parliamentary form will always carry this type of arrangement. They might have presidents, they might have queens, they might have monarchs. All of them, they'd be ceremonial heads. The prime ministers in any country, they are called as PMs only, except Germany that calls the PM as chancellor. All of them will be occupying the powers in reality. Is it clear? Understood the framework? Right. Now let's go to the next leg. You write down, keep this next heading, write down. Now this is very important. It happened in 22 in the month of July. What happened? What is the topic? What happened? Yes, very good. Write down. Election of the president. Election happened when? Just to give you a good flavor here. Last election happened when? पिछले राष्ट्रपति का चुनाव कब हुआ था? 2022 में. फिर क्वेश्चन कब आएगा प्रीलिम्स में? जुलाई में हुआ था, जुलाई में. तो क्वेश्चन कब आएगा? 2023 में. क्वेश्चन आए, 2 क्वेश्चन आए एक्चुअली प्रीलिम्स में. फिर उससे पहले कब हुआ था? Before that, when it happened? What's the term of the president? Basic general knowledge. So 22 में से 5 कम करिए, कितना आएगा? 2017. Who got elected? Mr. Ramnath Kovind. A question came in 2018. So by that logic, question comes in 2022. 28, and I hope that you would be qualified by then. Just write down a statement here. Write down the statement. Write down a statement here. Write down the president is elected. The president is elected. The president is elected. Why? At the end of the day, why doesn't the PM choose the president? He has got no powers. Can I say that? The moment I say president, I told you it's the PM. She's just the face. Behind the president, there's always a PM. So why do we not simply have an arrangement that PM anyways is getting elected in April, May, in the coming 2 months? Last week of May, he'll take the oath for the 3rd term. Let him choose the president. Why? Or let him. Should we do that or not? Write down is elected. President is elected as India is a democracy, as India is underlined a republic, as India is a what? Republic. How do you know this? How do you know we are a republic? What's the source from the lens of polity that we are a republic? Yes, in bracket write down. In bracket write down as per the preamble. As per the preamble. Preamble has been started in the class before. So just try to absorb. It shall be taught to you separately. Now you have got different sides to your personality. Some good, some bad. But if I want to know you as a person, I want to define you as a person with the good and bad automatically encapsulated in that thing. So that identity card of you is nothing but preamble for the Constitution. I want to read the entire Constitution. It is almost 400 articles, 400 pages. But let's not read the entire Constitution. Let's read the preamble. It is just a beautiful identity card. It's just a beautiful set of values. It's a beautiful write-up that is giving you the personality of the Indian Constitution. So if you want to know any Constitution's personality, just pick up the preamble and just read those 8-9 lines. That is all. That completely nails the flavor of that country. That is what is meant for us also. In fact, you wrote this term that we are a republic and thereby the head of the state is elected, and that goes back to a common doubt that I always had, and you would also had. You also have it because you all are citizens, and we read in that Upkar general knowledge books, assuming you read them, that there's a very popular fact that we always remembered as a child, that president is the head of the state and PM is the head of the government. Have you known this or not? Before, even as a citizen, president is the head of the state and PM is the head of the government. India is a parliamentary form of state or government? Government. Taken from England, which is a parliamentary form of government. And thereby England is a republic. Can I say that? Why? When the type of government is the same, why can't I say that it's also a republic? Yeah, so what's the difference between state and government, by the way? Now that's my main question. Head of the state, I remembered in school days, was the president. Head of the government was the PM. I think both of them are the same. That came up in the exam, by the way, 22 prelims. State and government is what? Are they same? Indian state, Pakistani state, Nepali state, Australian state, British state, US state, Afghani state. Though Afghan is not a state, by the way. They have a government, but Afghanistan is not a state. What's the difference? Yes.
In state we have 4 components.
Yes. Very good. What is yes?
Government comes under the state.
Yes. Is Palestine a state? Palestine, you know?
So there is an issue
A
going
territory
on
of
sovereignty.
yeah. The issue is going on, which means it's not a state. Now listen to me carefully. Listen to me. It shall be taught in IR by a different teacher, but just take it in a very crude way. Basic level is required for the exam. Whenever you talk about state, state is an overarching entity. State एक बहुत बड़ा term है. Political theory का बहुत बड़ा term है state. State में क्या होगा? पहली बात, जैसे आप पढ़ेंगे ancient history में, different states existed, right? Princely states existed in India. तो state का मतलब क्या है? State में क्या होगा? सबसे पहले जमीन, टेरिटरी, उसके बाद जनसंख्या, दैट इज पॉपुलेशन, उसके बाद क्या होगा? फिलिस्तीन में, पैलेस्टीन में, पैलेस्टीन एंड फिलिस्तीन, we've got territory, we've got people, a big chunk of people, one of the most dense areas in the world, but there is no what? No, there is no sovereignty. They cannot make laws on their own. They don't have, they are dependent on other territories. India is a sovereign state. Pakistan is a sovereign state. UK is a sovereign state. And thereby the fourth thing is the government. Now listen to me. Fourth thing is the government. Government is that actionable part that fulfills the objectives of the state. Indian state as an overarching entity has got certain values, has got certain objectives, like justice, like democracy, like freedom of speech and expression. All of these are broad values of the Indian state, an entity fulfilled by the government. So the state is an overarching concept. It's a theoretical construct. The values are manifested through the government. Parliamentary and presidential is actually a classification of what? Just to get you in that concept. Parliamentary and presidential is a classification of the government. Countries can have parliamentary or presidential. That has got no correlation with the head of the state. Head of the state in Japan, head of the state in Belgium, head of the state in Netherlands, head of the state in Thailand, head of the states in England, all of them are examples of the parliamentary form of the actionable part of the state, that's government, but they're actually all examples of constitutional monarchies. तो अगर किसी के पास पासपोर्ट हो या आप कभी बनवाएंगे, उसमें लिखा होगा कि नेचर ऑफ स्टेट क्या है. जैसे भारत के पासपोर्ट पे क्या लिखा होगा? रिपब्लिक ऑफ इंडिया. ये तो ना बोला पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. स्टेट इज द ओवरआर्चिंग टेरिटरी. जैसे सऊदी अरेबिया में क्या लिखा होगा? किंगडम ऑफ सऊदी अरेबिया. पाकिस्तान पे क्या लिखा होगा? इस्लामिक रिपब्लिक ऑफ पाकिस्तान. वो उनके नेचर ऑफ स्टेट है. State and government both are different. PM was the head of the parliamentary form of government. President is the head of the state. England, king is the head of the state. Is it okay? Just write one point here. Just write the examples of republics. Give me quick examples of republics. Yes. They've got Jinping as the president. He's the head of the state as well as head of the government. That's a different thing. Dictator is an adjective. Polity doesn't talk about dictators. Polity is about rules. The ones who occupy power, they become dictator. तानाशाह. वो accusation है. वो theory में कहीं नहीं है. कोई constitution नहीं तो ना बोलेगा dictator का election ऐसे होगा. वो तो व्यक्ति बन जाते हैं. Presidents presidential form में अपने आप तानाशाह बनते हैं. That is why I gave you the name of all those nations. Have a thought. I'll discuss it later. I'll discuss them later. Let me just finish this topic. Write down, example, write down, India, Pakistan has got a president? Yes. Then Nepal, Republic, USA, comma Bangladesh, comma Bangladesh. Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Nepal, UK, all examples of republics. What about Bhutan? Write down as compared to. As compared to. Is it clear the online ones? Yes or no? Right. As compared to. As compared to UK, comma Japan, comma Bhutan. UK, Japan, Bhutan, who are monarchies. Who are monarchies. Understood my point? Right. Next point, let's come to my constitution. Monarchy, you understand? No? English term. Search it after the class. We cannot go at this level. You write down now the election of the president. Write down election of the president. Yes, Russia also is a republic. No problems there. Write down the next statement. Election of the president has been discussed in the constitution. Election of the president has been discussed in the constitution. In the constitution. Number 1, under Article 54. Number 1, under Article 54. And number 2, Article 55. 54 and 55. Let's give the first subheading. Write down Article 54. This came up in 2018. Write down Article 54. Write this article first and then I'll explain you. Write down the president is elected by now see who are the electors. President is elected by number 1, elected members of both the houses of parliament. Both the houses of the parliament. Both the houses of the parliament. Number 2, elected members of legislative assembly. Have you heard this term? Yes, sir. Visible in the end? Legislative assembly of states. How many states in the country? 28. And UTs. UTs are 8, but the ones which have an assembly, how many of them? DP and JNK. In bracket write down 3. In bracket write down 3. Below this article, first point write down, then I'll open the framework of this article. Below this article, first point write down. Delhi and Puducherry have been participating. Delhi and Puducherry have been participating post the enactment the enactment, underline, very important amendment has to be by hearted. Post the enactment of 70th CAA. Can you guess the year? But you would not know because you've not seen the nearby amendments. 73rd, you know? 1993. So this will be 70th CAA 1992. Enactment of 70th CAA 1992. And second point in bracket, which I'll discuss maybe in the next class. Second point, before 2019, J&K participated as what? As a state. Participated as a state, but post that it shall participate as a what? As a union territory, as a UT. Now see, because you all have come here and you don't know about these two houses, I will not go into details. We'll just broadly try to understand the framework of the legislature. I hope everyone in this class knows that we are a democracy. Everybody knows it as a citizen. Question is simple. What's the meaning of democracy? Now don't tell me of the people, for the people, by the people. What's the meaning of this phrase democracy? If a country is a democracy, what's the first follow-up? What's the first conclusion? What's the first corollary of that statement? Raise your hands, anyone. I'd not be able to understand like this. Yes. Authority lies with the people. That's an open-ended framework. It's a very broad term in English. I want to specify it to polity. Yes. People choose? No, leader is a term in English. Yes. Yeah, people have their representatives to do what? To speak on their behalf and do what? Speak against who? Speak for who? Yes, the one in the end. No. These are terms in English. No, yes, the one that side. No. Head of the government in India is PM. He's not elected. He's appointed. Yes. No. Yes. No. And for the people I told you, don't tell me this. I spoke in English. If you understand English, yes. No. Yes, simple definition. What's democracy? Simple. Yes, or you want this to be taught to you by the institute? It's like not spoon feeding, it's like putting the spoon inside your esophagus. It is that easy as a statement. Yes. For what? For what? To some extent. Now see, when I say a country is a democracy, the simplest meaning is the representatives are chosen by us. For what? To make laws. Representatives will do what? They will make laws. I am a citizen, you are a citizen, we stay in a democracy. The first thing is, I will choose my representatives where? Kahan? To make laws. Kahan? Center and states. I have my issues at center to be different from the issues at states. When I am choosing my representative in the state, I want to talk about water. I want to talk about land. I want to talk about agriculture. But when I want to choose my representative at center, that's totally different. I want to discuss international relations. I want to discuss unemployment as a whole issue. I want to discuss security of my country. Both of these issues, they are totally separate. So the moment I say we are a democracy, it is just implying you will have two houses for sure. One is People's House at center. Every country has it. We call it Lok Sabha. What do we call it? Lok Sabha. And similarly, because we've got two tiers there is division of power in the constitution. That tier at the second level, at the level of states, is called as legislative assembly. Like I stay in Delhi, for a person like me in Delhi, he would be choosing his representative, because we are a democracy, in the Lok Sabha, like all of you will choose. And because I stay within the state or UT of Delhi, I will choose my representatives in the Vidhan Sabha or in the Legislative Assembly of Delhi. Is it clear? That is all. With this lens on, with this fact on, now you look at this article and tell me what's the flavor. Now you perceive this article. Now what's the deduction? What's the thought of the constitution? With the fact that you know these houses, now what's the deduction of this article? What's the flavor? What's the soul? Let me, if I want to just draw a diagram, let's say I want to depict it. This is more important than the article. If I want to just show you the soul of, Article 54, what can I highlight? If let's say this circle represents election of the president, what's the thought? What's the follow-up? What do I write it? What do I write here? What's the thought? Can I say that? Now, can I say that president is not elected by the people? Nowhere we saw us. So we'll write here what? I can write here representatives of who? The citizens. And this is at two tiers. This is first at the tier of center, where we have Lok Sabha, and there is one more, just know the name. There is Rajya Sabha, just know the name, that is all. And there is one more at the level of states, and I'd say states and UTs, 28 plus 3, which is represented by the members of Legislative Assembly, elected ones, but forget that term elected. Is this diagram clear to you? Is it depicting what is there in 54? Yes or no? Yes. Is it clear? And there's one more thing which I can deduce. Now you pay attention. You think about this. You think about this particular thought. What can I deduce from this second leg of the diagram? What can I deduce? That is more important than the article. Yes. Yes. Now listen to me carefully. Election is what? I want to elect the class representative of this batch. Who will be the voters? The batch in the front and you? Or only you? अगर इस कक्षा का हमें प्रतिनिधि चुनना हो, उसका चुनाव करवाएंगे, तो उसका मत कौन देगा? आप या फिर आपके साथ कोई दूसरा बैच? सिर्फ हम, आप। क्यों? क्योंकि आपका बिल्कुल सही, एग्जैक्टली सही। जो उस पद का काम है, उसी के मुताबिक संविधान में उसके मतदाता होंगे। Based on the work of the president or any person, who is elected, the electors will be concomitantly in that spirit, representing the role. We automatically nail down the electors. So to my surprise, the president is the head of the executive at center, which is what we see in 53. The constitution does not say he is the head of the executive also of states. Does it say that? No, there's a governor for that. But beautifully, when we want to elect him, I would have thought that it should have been just the representatives at center. That's the thought. I would have thought that way by that logic. But we also include all the states together. All the states and the 3 UTs with their representatives, which means that you would study first article of the Constitution by a different teacher in his lectures on polity. I'll just give you the article. It's the first one. It's like the name of the Constitution. It's called as Article 1, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of the states. It's a very heavy term. The Constitution in the very first article tells all the states that you have been created, you are independent. There is part 6. But finally, when it comes to center and states, the tilt of power is in the favor of the center. But what I am discussing is totally different in flavor. That's the beauty of my Constitution, that it is primarily towards center. It's a Constitution tilted towards center, but there are in bits and pieces several provisions in the Constitution where the states have been given equal stakes. In polity, we call these provisions for the exam as federal provision. Federal provision. Federal provision मतलब सेंटर और स्टेट्स को बराबर की शक्तियां दी गई हैं. आया समझ में? सेंटर और स्टेट्स की बराबर की शक्तियां, ये आपसे एग्जाम में पूछेगा. Which of the following represents unitary features of the Constitution? Which of the following is federal? The very first is the head of the state, the number one person in the country who is connected with center. He is the head of center. But what a beautiful feature. We have given stakes to the states and go further ahead. It's not only stakes to the states. I've drawn the circle equally. What's the logic? बराबर की डायमेंशन हमने रखी है दोनों सर्कल्स की. क्यों? Because this together represents 50% of the votes, and the remaining 50% of the votes, they go to all the states. Which means if I want to be the president of this country, 50% of my voters are all the MLAs from 31 states and UTs. They together carry a weight of 50%, and the remaining 50% is with the members of the parliament, elected ones, forget that term for a moment, at the center. Is it clear? This diagram is very important. This diagram is the soul of 54, which I'll beautifully use later in the discussion. So you want to remember this as the most important part of 54. Should I go ahead now?
Yes, sir.
So now with this thought, let's come to the details. I just want you to now come to the exact details of this article. Give this heading, write down composition of the houses. Right, give this subheading because I want to tell you this elected means what, right? So you write down composition of the houses. What is house? Not in English and polity. What is house? ओहो, हमने कहा अंग्रेजी में नहीं, पॉलिटी में. क्या मतलब होता है उसका? बताओ. Appointed a member of the house. House always means legislature. Is it fine? House means legislature. Now let's write down the composition of first is parliament, which is how many houses? 2 houses. Take it as a fact. Details I'll discuss later. I've told you one of them is LS, Lok Sabha, other is RS, Council of States. Very important house. But not the significance is important right now. We just want to look at the number of members and that is all. I want to just play with the mathematics, not the concept. So just take the numbers and forget it. Right? Lok Sabha has got how many elections happen in April, May? You should all know it. What's the number of seats that we have in Lok Sabha? 543. Very good. 543. All of them they are elected. Yes. No. 543. All are elected. Why would I lie? That too in the first class. Then Rajya Sabha has got how many members? 233 plus 12. These 12 are nominated. Forget who nominates, forget the criteria. 233 elected in RS, 543 elected. All the members in the LS Lok Sabha, name itself is telling you, would be elected by the people. So thereby, if I count both of them, how many of them are there? CSAT is also there, and a big chunk of people fail. Yeah, write down. What's the strength? Write down it is 776 MPs. Now the point I'm trying to make is 776 MPs together take away 50% of the votes. I hope it's clear. 50% of the votes remain with center, so I can say that they taken 50% of the votes. Second, write down. Second, write down Legislative Assembly. Legislative Assembly. You just write down this statement. Legislative Assembly. Is it visible now, all of you? In the end, visible or not? Legislative Assembly. Write down all the members. All the members. Sare members. All the members are elected. All the members are elected except a few. Except a few, the names are not important, but you just familiarize yourself. Except a few, like Puducherry, comma JNK, have nominated members. Have underlined nominated. What is nomination? Chosen. Means no election. Chosen by someone. No election. President chooses 12 members in Council of States. What's the criteria? Forget that. In fact, to just generalize this point which I just said, any job in the world will have two methods. Either you get appointed, like all of you and me, or you get elected. That's the flavor in the Constitution. Some positions they get elected, some positions they get appointed or nominated. In Hindi we say नियुक्ति और we say नामांकन, सब बराबर है. ये भी आपसे पूछते हैं कौन से गवर्नर ऑफ इंडिया इज इलेक्टेड. फॉल्स. प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया who says I get elected for 5 years, chief minister says I get elected for 5 years, they're actually what, elected or nominated? They are appointed. I'll discuss this point later. Is it clear, all of you? Do you understand my points? So you write down all the members are elected except you wrote what? Puducherry and JNK have nominated members. Nominated members. Those nominated members in the assembly, those nominated members in the assembly do not participate. Understood? So legislative assembly itself means what? Elected. It's a people's house. But for a good arrangement, a good conceptual thought, some of the assemblies, not the names are not important, they usually for a UT only, two of them that you wrote, they've got members nominated. For example, there are 33 seats in the assembly of Puducherry. 3 of them they are nominated by the president. Just forget that point. The remaining 30 they participate. In JNK there are 90 seats, including 2 nominated members. Those 2 will not participate. That's an exception. The moment I say people's house, it automatically entails as an idea all of them shall be elected. That's the logic. Exception is you might have some few nominated members for a good reason which I'll discuss later, not right now. It's too early for you. Is it understood? And the third is what they'll ask in the exam, most important point. Third point, write down, very important. Just the name and forget it. Write down. Write down, very important. Very important topic. Write down entire underline this phrase, very important topic. Entire legislative council. Entire legislative council. Entire legislative council. Have you heard this term? Entire legislative council does not participate in the election. Now see, this is a beautiful topic and straight questions will come from the exam. I just want to induce the thought and not go into details. When I'll take up the state legislature, then I'll open up this topic in great detail. In fact, the beauty of it is the confusion, and that confusion of it is the beauty, and that is what they'll ask in the exam. As simple as that. To just tell you what I mean, when the Constituent Assembly of India was making the constitution, 46 to 49 shall be taught to you separately in polity, they were not sure about this provision. Legislative Council, that's the second house, not in all the states, in some states. It was basically an idea that the Britishers had thought, we were not sure, we wrote it, and we added that headache, we kept that headache for the Parliament. Constituent Assembly said that let's write it, and let's write in 169, that's the article, and they said that let the Parliament by law decide if they want to have one for a state or not. That confusion has prevailed even till now. आज तक 75 साल 76-77 साल के बाद भी हमें ये नहीं पता लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल क्यों है. हमें तो छोड़िए, हम तो नागरिक हैं, जो खुद लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल के मेंबर्स हैं उनको नहीं पता. दे डोंट नो व्हाट इज देयर फंक्शन, किसी को नहीं पता. और क्योंकि किसी को कुछ नहीं पता, इसीलिए 2021 सिविल सर्विसेज मेंस this came up as a 15 marker in the examination. A very simple question came. Basically, the context is Mrs. Mamata Banerjee had lost the elections to the Assembly of West Bengal, so she had to continue as CM. Just telling you the thought, you don't know though. If somebody knows, only for that person. So there was an idea that cropped up that let's have a legislative council. That idea came. So that is how it came up that year. It was a current affair topic, and beautifully, it's a static topic also, but both of them amalgamated and you got that question in 21. So the beauty is the confusion and confusion is the beauty. Article is 169 in the Constitution. For the exam, 6 states, they have got a legislative council, very easy to by heart. North India, the 2 most populous states, you cannot forget them. It's UP and Bihar. Come further south of the Vindhyan mountain range, you've got the 4 states in continuity from the west till the east. It's called as Maharashtra, then Karnataka, then which state comes east of Karnataka? Telangana, and then east of Telangana comes Andhra. These 6 states together, I repeat the name, UP, Bihar, easy to by heart, come further south of India's Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra, they have got legislative councils. How many? Just 6, and that's the catch. Listen to me, don't write, it'll come to you. It's basic GK, it'll come to you. Very basic, like sun rising in the east, you won't write in the class notes. It comes to you naturally. So, these 6 states only have got legislative council, and thereby, it's a non-uniform feature. The remaining states, they don't have it. It's a non-uniform feature, and it is also non-permanent. So when somebody is asking me legislative council, first is part 6, article 169, exact address. Second is, it is non-uniform, only 6 states have it, and it is non-permanent. Now that's the problem. If I look at the houses that you just saw, LS and RS at center, no amendment can abolish that, because there's a limit to the amendment. I told you, right, that you will study. How far can you change the constitution? There's a limit, beautifully defined by someone else. So you cannot abolish LS, you cannot abolish RS, You cannot abolish LA in a state, but you can abolish easily the LC because it's confusing, right? So when I say LC, it's non-uniform and it's non-permanent. Remember these two keywords. Function you forget, not right now. This is just your first class. Function, I told you there's no function. Nobody knows what's their function. Is it fine, all of you? Right, and just comment the last point in this article, then I go to the best part of the lecture, slightly complex. So you be attentive, I'll teach till 1:45. Write down, therefore the President of India, quickly write down, be mentally prepared. Therefore the President of India, a common term that you know from your general knowledge, polity before you came here. Therefore, the President of India is what? No. Connected with the elections. Yeah, what is the sentence? Ends with Y. Starts with I. Yes. The President is indirectly elected. This is a very simple term. Indirectly elected. What is indirect? No, that's not, that doesn't encapsulate all the dimensions. Though you are right, I will not disagree. But then we miss out on something if I use your definition. What is indirect? That is not direct. As simple as that. And what is direct? That is not indirect. No, obviously no. What is an indirect election? Simple definition asked anywhere is an election that is not direct, is indirect. As simple as that. And what is a direct election? This term has been defined in the Constitution. I'll discuss this point later. Direct election implies that any election in the Indian Constitution where the citizens elder than 18, in English we call it Universal Adult Franchise, UAF. Any election that you know in the Constitution where you and me, that is the adults, are eligible to participate, all of them, they are popularly, loosely called as direct election. Keep aside those elections. Remember this simple but very important definition. All those elections where elder than 18 citizen is not allowed to vote and somebody else is voting. I don't care who's voting. All of those elections, they are popularly coming under the ambit of indirect elections. As simple as that. So what is indirect? It is not direct. What is direct? Where the citizens elder than 18 are eligible to vote by the Constitution. You got to find out which elections are direct. Keep aside them. Every other election is indirect, which I'll discuss in the classes. Is it fine? Now let's come to the next part. This is slightly technical, so be attentive. Write down. Very interesting article. Article 55. What will it tell you? Election has got two questions. Every election has got two questions. कौन चुनेगा? कौन चुनेगा? कौन, who will vote? So to now justify, 54 is what? Who or कौन? Who will elect? That is who. कौन? 55 is how. How, or in Hindi we can write कैसे. बिल्कुल सही. 55 is how. Or you can write down कैसे. आया समझ में? यही आपसे एग्जाम में पूछेंगे. Any election that you know, two simple questions. Who are the electors and कैसे, how of the election, as simple as that. Write down the statement, then I'll open up. Technically, you're right. Technically, I will call it as a manner, or I will call it as procedure. Manner or procedure of election. but we don't want to go, I don't want to pick up this dimension for the exam, but you just write it. How is what you want to always remember. How of the election, it's getting manifested in the constitution and letter as manner or procedure of the election. Am I clear, all of you? Now you write down, see what you write, very interesting. And you repeat this term, you'll get something out of it. Write down, elected by proportional representation. Elected by proportional representation. Elected by proportional representation. Proportional representation. Does it tell you anything? Proportional representation. Keep on thinking. Add something more, which I'll discuss later. By single transferable vote, which I'll discuss in the next class. Single transferable vote in bracket STV, and what you all know, voting is by SB. Voting is by secret ballot. Underline this phrase that you all know. And voting is by secret ballot. What do you mean by secret ballot as a term? Then I'll open PR. STV I'll discuss later. Then we'll conclude this topic. What is secret ballot? What is ballot? Ballot paper, ballot box. Ballot basically means vote. Secret vote means what? Secret means what? Basic English, tell me. Secret ballot simply implies that whenever any of the electors, in this case elected MPs and MLAs, they are casting their vote, their choice is not known to anyone else except the candidate himself or herself. जो भी MP या MLA, सांसद या विधायक, to just add one more layer, the MPs and MLAs that you know, they all come from a political party. I hope all of you agree with that. You all know BJP, Congress, JDU, RJD, SP, BSP, they all are what? Political parties. So, a legislator from a political party would vote how? Forget this term, you know this. Just want to add one more layer and just inside this thought. Every member of a political party that you know who is sitting in the house. House means 2 at center, 2 in the states, 4 in all. Every member of a political party who is sitting in the house, he is constitutionally bound to follow what is being directed, what is being told to him by the political party. If that person from a political party sitting in any of the 4 houses that you just saw, RS, LS, LA, LC, these 4, if he cross votes, what is cross vote? Votes against the party's diktat, votes against the party's order, then he has got a reprimand. He ends up losing his seat. If this class is Lok Sabha, this flank and this flank represents BJP, all of you are so many. But from the perspective of voting, by the way, as a food for thought, and then open up this idea later, all of you, you are just one for me. Because all of you, you come from BJP, you might be sounding, you are 303 actually in the Lok Sabha. The same might be the number here also. All of you are bound by the party directions. So if you cross vote, then you are inviting disqualification. You lose the membership of this batch permanently. That is a constitutional clause. Is it okay? And here lies a catch. You are bound by the party diktat. It is called as whip. Forget that if you don't understand. Diktat, I'll call it English, diktat. You need to follow. If you disobey, you get disqualified. Means you lose your seat. You are thrown out of the house. However, this is what ballot? Secret ballot. Which means? Yes. Which means that constitutional reprimand on you, where you need to follow the party's diktat, doesn't apply here. That's the thing I want you to remember. Which means if I'm a BJP MP, I'm sitting in the Lok Sabha or RS, election of the president happened in July 22, I was free to choose my elector. Though the candidates are put by the parties, that's a different lens. I'll discuss that later. BJP told me the candidate you need to vote for, and so was the case with Congress, but I was free. Even if I underline cross-voted, there was no reprimand. So cross-voting happens here. And cross-voting happens which side? Congress to BJP or BJP to Congress? From you as a citizen, smart citizen, without this simple observation, if you were to cross-vote, if you were the Congress MLA or MP, will you vote for the BJP candidate, or the BJP candidate would cross-vote for the Congress candidate? Cross-voting happened which side? Tell me quickly, as a basic citizen, we'll end the class then. It's 1:37. Yes? Yeah, that's a good thought, both, but generally, yeah. Congress legislators, MPs, MLAs, they cross-voted for the BJP candidate, which meant so that's also interesting. I'll discuss it later. Mrs. Draupadi Murmu anyways had to win the election. It is all, this topic is very important for the exam. It's redundant for the practice. We all know who's the president. Everybody knows. I'll tell you why later. So Mr. Yashwant Sinha was propped up by Congress, but Congress legislators, many of them, they cross-voted in favor of Mrs. Murmu because the voting is by secret ballot. You cannot verify who you voted for. Is it clear? That's the first thought. Second thought, now let's write down. I want to open this term with you. You can just repeat this term 4-5 times, loudly. What do you understand by this term? To understand, let's read out this term: proportional representation. Proportional representation. Proportional representation. What's the feel? From the name itself, it's coming to you. बोलते ही कुछ समझ में आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा? कुछ भी आ रहा है? क्या मतलब होता है प्रोपोर्शन का? किसी को रिप्रेजेंट करेगा कैसे? कैसे? पाकिस्तान की असेंबली में, उनकी लोकसभा में अभी चुनाव हुए, 72 सीटों पे चुनाव प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन से हुआ और 266 पे दूसरे सिस्टम से हुआ, जिससे हम यहां तक पहुंच सकते हैं. अगर ये अभी भी समझ में नहीं आया, proportional representation, then you got to know this system. It is a different system. It is called as first past the post. First past the post. First past the post. The entire batch is running for a 10-kilometer race. I have kept a post ahead of you 10 kilometers ahead. It's a post, it's a pillar. The one who crosses that post the first, and I don't care about the time that you take 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. I don't care about that. First past the post, I don't care. The one who crosses that post, the first of all, is the winner. In this case, in the context of elections, the how or the kaise, the one who gets what? Maximum. The one who gets the maximum, highest, sabse zyada, sabse adhik votes, he is the winner. The one who gets the max is the winner in FPTP. Does it come easy? Now, hang on. See this example. If it doesn't come easy, just hang on. Then I'll come to a good point. Pay attention now. This is the best part. So, in this class, 100 members are members of this batch, whatever be the batch name. 100 of you are, that's okay. 100 of you are electing your class representative. चुनाव हमने कराए class representative के लिए. एक class representative हम चुनेंगे. I'm choosing one class representative. 100 students are the members of this batch. 4 of you, A, B, C and D, they contested as the candidates. A, B, C and D. 100 voted, everyone voted. I was the organizing agent. I counted the votes. I said that A got 32 votes, B got 28 votes, C got 25 votes and D got 15. ये result है आपके सामने. Simple question. Who's the winner? Who's the winner? Raise your hands. Who the ones who say A? Now stretch the hands. Don't hesitate. You said A, all of you. Stretch the hands up in the air. Yeah. Put your hands down. How many of you say no one? Stretch your hands up in the air. No one. Put down. How many of you say cannot be determined? Stretch the hands up in the air. Yes, anyone. Why cannot be determined? The boy with the yellow specs. Yes. How do you think that? I did not tell you anything. Yes. Yes, that's the catch. I told you that elections are happening to the post of class representative. I said this is the result. You should have asked me how. कौन तो आप हैं पर कैसे होगा चुनाव, उसका हमने आपको जवाब नहीं दिया. यही ब्यूटी है कैसे की. अब ध्यान से सुनिए. If the election would have been organized by FPTP, then the answer would have been A, absolutely A. And here lies a major problem. A is getting just 32 votes. If the same election I told you is by FPTP, A is hands down the winner. He has got सबसे ज़्यादा. He has got maximum. But I am surprised because A should not be the winner. 60% of your batch does not reside with A. 68% बच्चे इस कक्षा के A के साथ नहीं है, पर विजेता कौन है? A. पर कराने में बहुत ही आसान. कुछ नहीं करना, nothing to do. Count the votes, see the maximum, that person is the winner. Easiest. By the way, all the direct elections that you know, every representative that you've chosen, by the way, is something like this. Go back and find out whichever place you come from, your Lok Sabha representative, your assembly representative, I can guarantee you would have got these numbers. Congress is not that bad, by the way. It's a problem of FPTP. Just have a thought. This is the proportion by which your representative represents you in the Lok Sabha and the assembly. So I don't care what's the proportion. I care about the max, full stop. If the same election I had told you that I need to organize by proportional representation, then I would have clearly said there is none of the four who is getting that least proportion. In this case, the keyword is proportional representation. Certain least proportion, कम से कम कुछ वोटों का पाना. Least proportion of votes is a prerequisite. अगर आए तो विजेता है, अगर नहीं आए तो election pause हो गया. Then we cannot proceed. And in this case, now hang on, the last point, then you can relax. The last point, if the same election would have been organized by proportional representation, the one, because I'm choosing one representative, one CR, one class representative, the one who had got 50% of the votes, कम से कम जिस उम्मीदवार के 50% वोट होते, उसको मैं विजेता डिक्लेयर करता. मतलब सेम चुनाव में, सेम रिजल्ट्स में कैसे से the entire story changes. So in this case, I was stuck. There was no class representative. I had to thereby, now that's the beauty of it. If this was by PR, I got stuck. right? So what do I do? So to open up that void, we have STV, just as a thought for the next class. Is it clear? So if somebody would have got, in this case, majority of the votes, which is 51 votes, then that person would have been the winner. Otherwise, I was stuck in the election result. That's the beauty. I do not want to have the President of India elected by this manner, where she gets just 32% votes and she takes the cake. No. She has to represent at least, kam se kam, 50% of the electors. Clear? Now you relax. One last question. I'd like to talk to a person who's good with mathematics and logic. You have the confidence to raise your hands. I'll talk to that person only. Rest you can relax. I'll explain you. You paid the fees. Don't worry. The one who's good with mathematics, जिनकी गणित अच्छी हो, जिनका लॉजिक अच्छा हो, वो अपने आप हाथ उठाएं और हम उनसे उन्हीं से बात करेंगे, बाकी कक्षा से नहीं कर पाएंगे, उनको बाद में समझा देंगे. कोई ऑनलाइन में हो तो वो अपना हाथ उठाए, मतलब हाथ ऐसे ना उठाए, उसमें चैट बॉक्स का इस्तेमाल करे. Yes, I'll talk to you then. Anyone else apart from him? I'll talk to two. Sit down. Have a seat. Anyone else who's good with mathematics and logic? Yes, so I'll talk to you and two only. I'm sorry. Next time I'll give you a chance. I'll choose a new subject. So you and you. Now I'll talk to you. Listen to my question carefully. I'll repeat the entire summary because I want you to deduce a formula for me. What am I discussing? Proportional representation. Right? I'm discussing proportional representation. I said for any person to win the election by proportional representation, the certain least number of votes, least proportion of votes need to be taken. Is that clear till now, both of you? Right. I showed these results. I said I want to choose one class representative. The percentage or the proportion or the number, let's talk about number only in the same election, it is 51. That is what I said. Is it clear till now, you and you? Right. Now my first question is, I want to choose one class representative. The votes is 51. Right? What if I want to choose two class representatives? In that case, what is that least proportion of votes required to win the election, which was 51 in case of one class representative? If that becomes 2, what's that proportion? That person only. Take your time, there's no need to worry. I'll talk to you only. The other ones will relax. Think about your lunch, you'll just have in few minutes. Tell me, how much? 17. No, that's okay. You got it wrong, but you got it. I understood your problem. Someone else would want to participate. That's okay. I appreciate your confidence. Yes. No. No.
33.
So what's the answer? And what if I want to choose 3 class representatives? What if I want to choose 4 plus 1? Very good. So what's the formula? No. Did you understand my question? No? That's okay. Focus now. Yes. Total number of? Yes. Now listen to me carefully. Let me conclude. Every proportional representation system is declaring a winner if the winner gets certain least proportion of the votes. Is that clear? This example I gave you when I was choosing one class representative, naturally it became 50% plus 1. That is 51 votes. If I wanted to choose 2 class representatives, then by logic, the proportion of votes required to win the election now reduces. It becomes how many votes at least? 33 plus 1. If I want to choose 3, 25 plus 1. If I want to choose 4, 20 plus 1. Thereby, what's the formula? Yes. Very good. Now you write down. Now see what you write. Write down. Then we'll end the class. Write down. In a PR election, quickly write down. Very important. In a PR election, quota is calculated. Quota is calculated. Which represents the least number of votes. Least number of votes required to what? Required to win the election. Which is equal to, look at this formula, which is equal to total number of what? Total number of votes. I'll just prefix a number, a phrase. Total number of valid votes divided by what? N plus 1. What is N? Number of, yes, you are right, number of representatives. I'll call it number of seats, not the candidates. No, I don't care about the number of candidates. I care about the seats. कितनी सीटों के लिए चुनाव है वो सवाल है. कितने उम्मीदवार है उससे हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Number of seats, or you can also write down vacancies. Number of seats, number of vacancies. For example, there were 2 class representatives posts that were vacant. Plus 1, and because it might turn out to be an even number. So 100 by 2 is 50. In case I want to choose 1 class representative, so we have to go to the next number. Thereby we add plus 1. This is the formula to know the quota. I'll use it beautifully in lecture number 10 when I'll start with the first class on the way the elections they happen to the Council of States. Is it fine, all of you? Yes. Now you listen to me. You just revise these class notes. You revise them well. Revise all the polity classes together. In the next class, I'll start with, you got the handout with you, right? Yes, sir. You get this handout. We'll discuss technicalities. Then we'll discuss counting. And then we'll discuss some bit more about the election of the president. Okay, then thank you. Have a good day. Thank you. Doubts, handout is there at the portal. You please check the portal, the online ones. It's already there. Just have a look. Is it fine, Granth Pandya? Yes or no? Okay, thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.